truth. So I work for a company called GINGERBEARD Media. That's my company. I do that about 80% of my time. And really, Kate and Courtney have kindly allowed me to come in and talk to you guys basically around the use of GoPros. So the idea is really that you guys will be trekking through for I think about 10 days. And then once all that footage comes back, my job will be to edit it into some sort of order. The reason we're really doing this is so that you can understand how to get the best out of it so that you get the best film at the end. It's as simple as that. If you've got any questions, let me know. I'll either answer them at the time, or if I've got something on them as we go, then we'll answer it at that point. The stuff that I'm going to run through today, so basic operations, and I would say at this point, if you've got your GoPro in front of you, that would be helpful. Or at least if you can see your mates. We'll talk about all the kind of basic stuff. Before I go any further, how many people have actually used one, come across? Fantastic, expert already. Anyone else? Is anybody else kind of a complete technophobe that hate technology? Yeah, there we go. And yourself, okay. So I guess even if you're completely knowledgeable of all this, you know, as part of your journey, working together and sharing that knowledge is a really good thing as well. So we'll run through all your basic settings and functions and then answer the most common question that's probably going to come up, which is, what settings do I use? I'll run over some of the strengths and weaknesses of the camera. Battery life has already been mentioned, and we'll run over some other bits as well. And then we'll start to run into basically how you use it, some general bits around, there we go, GoPro's on or off, composition and shooting a story, and then if there's any questions or anything like that, then you can ask them at the end. So, basic information, stuff that you should have in your bag or box would be all of these bits. So you're going to have a case that looks something like the clear plastic. That should come with a second kind of back bit to it, so you're actually able to gently peel them off. So you get two of these back pieces with your camera. One is completely solid, and that's basically makes the entire thing waterproof, and it's waterproof for about 3 meters, so, and I doubt you're going to go any further than that. The other one has got a couple of holes in it, and what that allows you to do is just have some better sound recording. The GoPro isn't great at recording sound anyway, but it does allow a little bit more sound in there. I guess my advice will be is if you're looking to record, you know, something with a better piece of sound, and it's not, you know, raining or you're not diving underwater, having the camera out of its case is not a problem. But obviously, once it's inside its case, it's a lot more protected. So it is a little tricky to get the case back on and off, but just take it gently-ish. It does need a bit of a yank. Other bits that you get in there will be, if it's a new GoPro, then you'll, the battery may or may not be included. So to get to the battery, you've got a little compartment on the back. So you just, there's a button next to it which you just click. That takes out kind of the covering case. And then if the battery's not in there, then it'll be empty. And if the battery is in there, it should have like a little pull cord, and you can pull the battery out. Easy as that. So they really are quite a simplistic camera to kind of use, move, and all those sort of things. First thing you will probably lose with this camera, because it's slightly poorly designed, is on the side there's a connection port, and it's got a tiny little black case that goes at the top. It's not connected in any particular way. If you lose it, don't panic. Camera still works. It's just really to keep dust, grime, water, and all that sort of stuff out of those connection ports on the side. Other bits that you get in there, GoPro kindly give you a couple of self-adhesive sticky pads. So, you know, use them. I guess I'm a bit of a hoarder, so I tend to just keep them until the last moment. But yeah, they do stick on. Once they're on, they're not going to damage anything that's on there. So if you stick it to your windows or anything like that, but they will be, they're not something you can stick on and then take off and reuse. Final piece that you get is your charging cable. So obviously you'll want to take that with you. That all makes sense so far? Yes.
Is it a camera or a video?
Is it a camera or a video camera? It is both. It will, and we'll run over the function in a second, it will take video, it will take photo, it will take a burst of photo, so really rapid fire, and that's about it. So, leads on quite nicely actually. So looking at this piece of equipment, so basically you have a few buttons on it. Let's just do that. So, lens at the front, it's a nice wide angle. I can't remember what the ultra wide is. It's something ridiculous like 127 degrees. It's quite a wide lens. On the front is your on button. So once you push that, it will make a bunch of beeping, annoying noises. You can turn the beeps off if you don't want the beeps. Yeah. Can I just check on the... Yeah, on the side, you've got another button, which if you push and hold, a blue light comes on the front. Feel good? I can go slow if you need me to go slower. Okay, yep, so button on the side is a Wi-Fi button. So if there is a blue light or a blue flashing light, your Wi-Fi is on. You guys will not need this. So why would you have it? Why do you have it? It allows you to connect to your phone. So you can actually run it remotely. So I could put this camera, 30 foot up in the air and be able to turn it on and off using my phone. So it's fantastic apart from you guys are going to be in the middle of nowhere. There's not going to be any power. So if your phone is working, you probably want to keep the battery anyway. And other than that, it's just going to drain the battery within this thing. So if you've got a blue flashing light on here, just push and hold on the side until it lights up blue, and on the screen it will then basically turn off. So just push and hold it, and eventually it will stop being a pain. Cool. Most important button is on the top, which is your stop and go button. Depending on what function you're on as to whether it starts your photos or your movies or anything like that. The other piece that you'll need to know about is behind... Ladies, come on, don't make me split you up. So behind the badly designed piece of plastic, you've got a couple of ports. First one is a HDMI. You won't need that. What it allows you to do is connect a HDMI cable, so effectively one of these. So if you wanted to go to a TV or something like that. The bottom one is your charging port. So that's where that cable will connect into. And the other piece that you've got is your micro SD slot. That is your memory card for these things. It's small and it's tiny and it's very easy to lose. So your best bet for all of these is really either keep it in the camera or keep it in the memory card case that you'll get when you buy a memory card. It's just a case of using your fingernail to pop it in and out. Does that all make sense? Come on. Any questions about that part? Is that this little thing? Yep, so that's your SD card right there. And you just simply pop it, you can't really get it in the wrong way. It just won't fit, so you just pop it in and pop it out. Look, I'll show you. Okay. Next piece of important information is really how do you operate and how do you use this thing, so the menu systems, which to be honest are a little confusing. So first thing you want to do is turn your GoPro on if it's not already on, and wait for annoying beeps. Button on the front will allow you to flick through all the different modes that it's got. So first one should be a little camera, which looks something like this, which is a camera, it's for photography. The second one should be one of these, which means it's a burst frame. So if you were doing something like a really fast activity, you were running really fast, you were jumping off a cliff or something like that, by pushing that button it takes about 5 or 6 photos in very rapid succession. So it's like bang, 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 bang. The Next one is this icon, which is basically, it's photography at a set time. And you can set that time somewhere between 0.5 seconds, so every half a second, every 1, 2, or 5. And we'll talk about time lapses, which sometimes that's used for, because what that allows you to do is basically set a camera up and you could take a photo, take a photo, take a photo. So if I did it here, it probably wouldn't be that interesting because all you guys are watching me intently, but if we were in a crowd, you'd see everybody moving around if you were to leave it there for an hour or so. If you push the button again, you get to settings, which is this kind of spanner, and if you push it again, you'll end up back at the camera mode. So this is probably the one that you're going to use the most. That is your movie mode. Now, let's talk about some of the settings underneath all of this sort of stuff. So these are all accessible under this menu, so the spanner, which you just end up going around. To select a menu, it's basically the top button. So and this is one of kind of the downsides of it, is that you kind of have to remember it's like one button to kind of scroll through and one button to select, so it becomes a little bit painful. So there are some options, and we'll come to the main question that will get asked, which is, well, what the hell do I use at all at the end of this? So the camera is able to shoot in kind of wide, medium, and narrow settings. So it allows you to take like a narrow shot, a medium shot, or a wide shot. We're also able to turn off things like the LEDs going, the beep, and all that sort of stuff is in that settings menu. Within the camera settings, you're able to change, can I just pinch one because your one's different to mine? You're able to change oh, come on. So the first setting that you'll come to is shooting, whether you shoot. It's basically this menu. It's slightly different, but it gives you a whole bunch of numbers, and they say things like 1080 30, 90 60 30, 720 60, 720 30. And all of this I'm going to talk about in a second as to what that all means in a more relevant way. But that whole menu allows you to set basically frame rate and quality and things like that. The menu system itself is a little bit painful, as I say. You end up kind of scrolling through to kind of find what you want to find. I guess my advice to you is, when you're going to shoot something, make sure your camera's set up before you go, because otherwise you kind of sit there like trying to find what you need to find. So I'll try and explain all of those settings about movie settings within the next couple of slides. So the first one is around quality. So there are 3 options on the GoPro model that you've got, which are basically WVGA, 720, 960, and 1080. And probably this picture is the easiest way of explaining what they actually mean. They're basically a size of picture that you're going to take, a quality of picture. So WVGA isn't listed on this picture, but it's basically 848 pixels by 480. It's a 6:9 picture, which, if you know anything, is basically like your widescreen TVs. The next one up is a 720, and the numbers basically correlate to the number of pixels, the height of the pixels. So 720, 960 and 1080 are numbers of pixels. And you may recognize these things from, if you've bought TVs or monitors and all those sort of things, they'll say 1080p, 1080i and all those sort of things. Ignore the P and the I, they're not relevant for this conversation. It basically allows you to shoot different sizes, different qualities of picture. It's as simple as that.
Is the smaller the picture, the better quality?
No. Bigger the picture, the better the quality.
Oh, wow.
So what it allows you to do is, if you shoot in 1080, which is your best quality, if you were to edit in a smaller size, you can take all those pixels, squash them a lot closer together, and the picture is a lot better quality.
Oh, okay.
The next one is FOV, or field of view. So as I say, this camera allows you to shoot in wide, medium and narrow. And it's a bit hard to see on this screen, but the picture down here really shows you what the GoPro does. So on narrow, it kind of cuts in very close, medium's a bit better, and wide's further out. You'll also notice not only does it kind of change the field of view, I don't know if you can see this, but it actually pulls what's in this narrow frame basically closer. Does that make sense?
Would you recommend just average, just for like, instead of mucking around with it all the time?
Yep.
Just for the everyday use.
I have got that in one more slide.
And like, if you're, okay, because my question is receiving that.
No, go for it.
If you're doing your videoing.
You want to do a selfie?
Yeah, it's going to be narrow. Like if you're doing your monologue in the morning or something, would you do that on narrow?
No, you do it on wide, and again, they're kind of linked.
Okay.
The other thing that you'll get on that menu, so that first number on that menu is like 1080, 720, 920, so that's one thing. On the other side is like 30, I think on those models it's either 30 or 60, and that relates to how many frames a second you're shooting. So, now, Kate, pay attention. So, frames per second basically allow you to do a slower motion. So, if you think about it, when you watch TV, those TVs refresh at a 30 FPS, so 30 frames per second, and that's what generally our eyes see at. If you go to the cinema, it's 24. The more frames you put per second, the more data you're capturing and the slower you can go. And what I did, this is something I shot. Now this isn't something that you'll be able to do, I'll tell you what we'll do, just do that. So this is something I shot a couple of weekends ago, and it's a mixture between two cameras. One is shooting at 96 frames per second, which is way above what the GoPros do. And this is this is 30 frames a second. So this is your normal movement, normal whatever, and everything's gonna capture. This camera is shooting at 96 frames a second. So it's 4 times the speed. And hopefully if I can, you're not gonna let me do that, are you? So what you can see is it slows the motion down. So if you guys are doing something that's a bit more fast-paced, you'll probably want to use that 60 frames a second as opposed to 30. Does that make sense? No? Which bit's confusing?
I think that you need to shoot faster if you're moving faster.
Yes.
You're saying to shoot.
No, I am saying shoot faster. So the more frames you've got, that's more data you're capturing, which allows you eventually to slow the footage down because you can stretch the data out. Have you ever seen a piece of footage that's been slowed down and it's kind of that like jumpy? That's because there's not enough frames within the motion to be able to stretch it out. It's kind of a cheating slow motion. So that slow stuff is at 96 frames a second. You won't be able to shoot stuff as slow as that with the GoPro. And you guys probably aren't going to be doing stuff that you necessarily need to be shooting at that 60 frames. But I'm just trying to explain all the bits that you need. So the question that you really come down to, which is the question that Courtney and gents over here was asking, was what are the settings I need to actually use? So I would recommend that you put your camera on 1080, 30 frames a second, and wide. It will say W on the top of the screen if it's already in wide. So that's my recommended time. Now, you were talking about battery life. Bam. So how long do you get out of these little things? Well, they're pretty small and they run very powerful kind of processors. So they'll run for about 2.5 hours, maybe 3, really pushing it. And then they'll just be dead and they'll be flat and you guys won't be able to charge them. So you do need to think about what you're shooting, how you're shooting them, and basically conserve that battery. Having things like Wi-Fi turned off and not leaving them kind of sitting around on go will help. So turn them off when they're not in use would be my advice.
Bruce,
yes.
on this slide it says 4H:30. So does that mean that's 4.5 hours worth of battery? Well, I reckon it's because you guys don't have data. I have data on mine. This is the one we use to 2 hours, 16 minutes. Is that got?
Nope. So what that number is, so the number on the screen that reads like 4H something is how many hours or how many minutes you've got left in the memory card.
Oh, so that's not my question.
You will have a little battery power symbol, which is the usual kind of battery, and it's got 3 bars. Yep, and that one will tell you how much battery you've got. The other thing to note is that these things have got a charge time of about 2 to 3 hours, so it's about a 1-for-1 use. What you put in is what you get out. I actually think that's pretty good. So I guess when you're traveling through, you know, airports and hotels and all that sort of stuff at the beginning of your trip, use the opportunity, you know, to grab that stuff and basically just charge when you can. Cool. That's all kind of basic settings, basic operation. Does that all make sense? Pretty simple.
Do you know what an extra battery costs?
I don't off the top of my head. What I will tell you is that anything you buy that is official GoPro, so be it cameras, battery, lenses, you know, mountings, all that sort of stuff, generally is a standardized price. So don't worry too much about looking around and trying to hunt for the lowest price. It's very much like Apple. It is, the price is the price. People won't come down on it, so I wouldn't worry about that. But there are places that you can get third-party adapters and all those sort of things. So it's the same stuff, but for cheaper price. I can't say that I've used any like third party, but so it's just a case of just, you know, does it feel all right? Does it feel like cheap plastic? You know, that sort of stuff. Okay. So what I wanted to do next was talk around strengths and weaknesses of the actual camera itself. And the reason that I wanted to do this was really, if you understand what a tool's weaknesses are, then I think that you can use it to their advantage, basically. So, let's talk about some of this. Good stuff. It's small, it's compact, it's hardy. I think one of the things that Kate and I discussed was a concern about them getting broken. I'd say if it's in its case, I've not broken one yet, and I've had this one, and I've got one of the old Mark IIs as well. And yeah, I'm yet to smack the case or anything like that, and it's been through a fair bit with me. So. What else? It's tough, it's waterproof. As I say, it's waterproof to about 3 meters, which is probably far in terms of what you're gonna get. It is relatively easy to operate, but what I would say is it's got quite a confusing memory system, and it just takes a while to get used to it, and you do end up kind of doing a circle of the memory systems to kind of get to where you want. What else? It does have a relatively quick charging time. The lens is wide, which is good if you do want to, you know, spend 4 hours looking at Courtney doing this. So it's fantastic. And what this camera is really designed for, so this company was started by a guy who was a surfer, and he really just thought there was nothing out there that was able to self-film. There's all these guys floating around in the water, but he wanted to be able to film himself, and that's why this thing came around. So that's what it's designed for, and obviously it's moved for snowboarding and those sort of things. So it's really designed for action sports and being up close and personal, which is a good thing because it allows you to basically go like on a one-person holiday and you can film all the bits yourself. The bad side is that, you know, if you want to go out into, you know, fantastic WA, you want to take some photos of the landscape, this is completely the wrong piece of kit to do it with. It has a distortion on the lens, and that's how it gets its wide piece. So if you have a big nose like me, then obviously that comes out even bigger on film and photo. But that said, if you go out into, you know, the nice landscape of WA and you were to shoot for kind of 2 hours and you left it there and all the clouds rolled across and there's a nice landscape in front of you, if you speed that footage up, it looks fantastic because it's able to capture that wide, unique kind of perspective. You guys are also getting head straps, which look something like this. So these things are fantastic. They've got kind of a nice grip panel on them. They're relatively stable once you get them on. But fantastic model right there. I'd say the bad side to them is that they are a little bit fiddly to set up. So don't leave it until day one to get it set up, because you'll be spending a little bit of time. Because all these kind of buckles, it just feeds through. What else? The sound recording is okay, but it's not fantastic, and especially if you've got it in the enclosed case rather than out on its own, or with the couple of kind of bits missing on the back case, then it's not great at recording sound. So don't expect it to do an interview with someone at kind of this distance. One, you're not going to hear them, and two, they're going to be miles away because of the lens. So, and the final thing that just takes a bit of practice really to get around is it doesn't have a viewfinder. So it does take a bit of a kind of guesswork as to what it's going to see. The easiest way that I do it, and I kind of cheat it, well, one, when you do have the Wi-Fi connection on, you can actually see with your phone, so that's another reason that you do that. Two, on the old GoPros, you actually have you can get screens for these, so you can actually see. But the easiest way to do it if you don't have a screen is pretty much just sit behind it and look with your eyes. And if you look from kind of left to right as to what you can see, that's pretty much what this thing will see as a guide. So, what I wanted to do was show a couple of example videos. One, so I can give my voice a rest and you don't get too bored of my English accent. And also so that you guys could actually, I thought what we'd do is, I think I've got 3 videos to look at. And I wanted you to kind of pick out the good points and the bad points with regard to what you liked or what you disliked around the footage. Easy as that. Now, the first video is from the stuff that you guys shot, was it last weekend? Yeah. So who had the GoPro mounted on them?
Oh, we alternated.
Was it? I thought there was a couple of people.
Yeah.
I know that you did for a little bit. There was somebody who had it on for a...
Rita had it, I had it.
Ah.
Joel, who was in.
Yeah, okay. So...
Was there a lot of people's bubbles in it? Because...
We'll find out. So what I'll do, first of all turn my sound on, so that you guys...
The price of the battery?
Yeah, $50. $50 at Target, or $56.
$50 in JB Hi-Fi.
And $50 at Target. Perfect.
So, all good?
All good.
Right.
Ready for this? Are we?
It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here, you can take a break.
Cool. So, that's probably and I had to pull, I think there was about 2 or so hours of footage there, and pull that into kind of that 4-minute. I'd probably put that about 70% finished. It's still, I probably would have chopped it down a little bit more. But what did you notice about the footage?
So much. I couldn't imagine how long it took you just to get that out. Yeah, so you've really got to be careful.
Yeah, so the things, and this is no detriment to your filming. It's nothing bad about what you'd done. What I wanted to do was just kind of show what you get. So that was effectively about 2.5 hours, something like that. And it's all it's basically one shot that you've got. So what I'm trying to do, I guess, is get a point across about you've got to balance this. You guys are going on this trip for a certain reason, but you also want to shoot some video and get some benefit out of that. So there is a balance when you get across there. We'll take a look at the next couple of videos, which they're not mine. I've just kind of pinched them off the internet, but I think they're relevant to kind of put some more points across. So. Okay, so what did you notice, or what did you like in the kind of the second and third video?
The diversity of shots.
Yeah. And that's probably the key thing between like good videos and bad videos. Like I could pick out bad points in both of the kind of the YouTube videos. There was like bad use of slow-mo, like I saw a couple of people go like, oh my god, that's so good. It's pretty poor, I think. And also a couple of the shots, even in what that's like an official GoPro piece of video. Even some of the shots within those are probably cut too long, but that's more to do with editing process rather than actual shooting. For you guys, I guess, to get value out of this, you don't need to shoot for 2 hours all in one go. You can get a 15-second shot that will be awesome and really just summarize the video. The other thing that was good is that other than the kind of framing of shots and kind of variety, is that they also kind of changed the depth of field. So by using things like poles and having it in front of them and behind them, you can actually see them in the environment, which I think is really good. And it's more than you're going to get if you were to use, a head piece with the camera mounted out here, So we'll talk about some other bits and how you get those in a second. The other ones I wanted to show were really around time-lapsing. So what you can do, and we'll just kind of flick through these. So all these people have done is basically got a GoPro, stuck it in a fixed position, and then just left it to run, and the world moves around it. And the key to a good time lapse is really having the camera in a stationary position, maybe including something that's fixed so it gives it context, and then just roaming through. This one's quite a good one as well. So this is a Antarctic cruise, and you can still see the front of the ship and people get up and move around, but it's interesting to see the clouds kind of come through, and yeah, it getting a little hectic. So, we can run these all at the same time. Fantastic. So yeah, and this one down here really just shows you that cloud formations are kind of interesting as well. So one of your days might be purely, you get up in the morning and there might be a time between you getting up and you going out and you're out on the trek for the day, and you literally go, oh, that's a nice piece of scenery, and you just set up and you leave and you run the GoPro, and that's for 2 hours and it's dead, and that's your day's shot. But we might get the sunrise or the sunset. If it's at the end of the day, you might get clouds coming across and things moving, and it just makes it something to interlink the footage with what's going on and what you guys are doing. So all I'm trying to do is just pose some different bits that are going on. So, and you'll be, you guys are flying out there, so what I would say, having done it myself, is aircraft people don't like you attaching cameras to the aircraft, even though there's nothing wrong. So what I did was I've got a suction cup for this thing, and I just stuck it on the window and tilted the camera and pointed it out. I got some great footage, but they didn't really like it. So just be aware of what you're doing, because you're in other people's property and things like that. Cool. So stabilization and mounting is probably the link on topic to all of this. So things that I carry with me, which help with kind of all this sort of stuff, would be all of these sort of bits. So I picked up these sort of cargo straps from Bunnings. I think they were about maybe $5 or something like that. And I literally have used that to, wrap around trees and just, without damaging the environment, and just have them linked up. If you're connecting to metal, I carry like some garden twine and just kind of that's sort of that metal encased in plastic, and just again wrap it round and just hold it there. This thing is, and those things are a few bucks. This thing's a little bit more. Basically, you put your GoPro on top. It's like a kitchen timer. It just ticks and it slowly rotates, and that allows some movement as you come across, and you get some really decent shots with that. The other thing that I use, electrical tape, because you can just literally wrap this thing around. It'll keep it in place. It doesn't damage anything that you stick it to, and that's you know, great ways to do that. I've seen plenty of videos involving the head mount that you've got, and you know, you can actually dismantle this thing so that you can use it to strap it to different bits. I'd say that you guys are going with walking poles, I think. So you've got an opportunity, you know, again, electrical tape, grab it around there. You can have it at the top, you can have it at the bottom, you can do the whole pan and it's on the end. You can stick it over your shoulder and it's filming you.
Yes, so they told us not to buy them, so that wasn't a way to not buy a pole. They said they'll organise that for us. We'll cut us on the
Yep. But I mean, you're going through an area that has trees. You know, if you find a stick that you want to carry with you, you can attach it to that. You've got a backpack that you'll be carrying. So, you know, you can attach it to this thing. I've seen them linked onto the straps. I've seen them kind of, you could kind of push a piece of pole through here so that you can see your backpack, you walking through the jungle, all this sort of stuff. So it's really down to your kind of creativeness to think about how you use it, where you put it, and all that sort of stuff. I just realised I didn't bring that Australia Day video that I showed you, which would have been good. So mounting is really easy. The thing that I would say is these cameras are relatively stable in themselves. So as I say earlier on, they were designed for the action sports sort of stuff. So they've got quite a good stabilizer in them, but the more stable that you can keep them, you know, I think when you saw those guys running down the hill, it was a little bit jerky, so that sort of stuff is just something to keep your mind on. I'll touch on this and kind of run through, and it's more, I guess, thinking about the composition of your shots. And we're starting to move into more kind of advanced stuff, I'd say. So there's something known as rule of thirds. Has anybody heard of this?
Which?
Rule of thirds.
Focus is 1/3 of the picture.
Fantastic. So it looks something like this. So you divide your picture up into kind of thirds, hence the name, and you put something of interest on one of the dot points. And it's just one of the ways of composing your shots. When you get out there, you know, this isn't going to be top of your mind, but it's just something to kind of get you guys to think about when you're kind of lining your shots up as to what's in it. That said, rules are always there to be broken, and you can get some very nice shots that actually break the rule of thirds, so don't be worried about always following it. Aside from the variety of shots that the guys got in those couple of videos that I showed you, they really, one, thought about kind of composition, and two, the story behind it. And so one of the things that I kind of, I guess, struggled a little bit with the stuff that you guys gave me was pulling a story from it. And so I had to go a different route when I edited it, which was more picking out, you know, what was being said and what was going on. So whatever you come back with, we'll try and make use of, but if you can think about the story that you're telling, that's cool. I'll show you this video, which is, this guy traveled on his own and he thought of a different way of shooting a storyline. So this is just him. I guess the principles there, you know, there's a fair bit of editing skill behind that, but he's actually thought about, here's a story of me, I'm going through a bunch of countries and I'm on my own, how do I make a bit of a story out of it? And he's done something quite clever and quite unique. But there are bits in there, the principles that you can take away. You know, he's always wearing the same clothes, which allow the transition of the story. He's thought about how his shots can line up. That running across, where he runs across 3 different screens, he's actually thought about how he could interlink all those sort of things. So again, I'm not expecting you to go away like, oh my God, this is what I'm going to do. But it's just kind of little bits in your brain that might fire off whilst you're out there, and you just think about what you're shooting. So I think I've actually kind of covered all of the bits that I wanted to cover in here. But I guess in summary, you know, think about just getting a variety of shots, and go out there, you know, the same as you're doing with all this sort of training is preparation. So go out there, have a play with the cameras, see what they do, see what works, see what doesn't work, because it will be a lot easier when you go out and you film. Don't be worried to make a mistake, because I've got some of the best shots, both photography and video, completely by accident, and that's probably a bad thing to say professionally, but yeah, it's interesting when your brain just kind of lets something go and you're like, oh, I wonder what happens if I do this, and you come up with some really cool stuff. Think about the limitations of the camera, but don't let it limit you, because just because it's, you know, good for up close and it's not very good with sound, and it's great at landscape, like if you do a time lapse, but it's not so good, you know, don't let that be a negative thing. Work with its strengths the same as you would as an individual. And obviously just plan and prepare, and that's more to do with, you know, you guys are going to be out, you're going to be away from power and those sort of things, so just think about, you know, just being prepared and ready to go with that sort of stuff. That's all I've got. Hopefully it's been of use. If you've got any questions, and it being about this or general photography and video, I'm happy to answer anything you've got within reason.
Thank you.
No worries. Good luck to you guys on your trek.